guys, Comic Boom here to review Wakanda Forever. I'm normally a DC Comics guy, and I recently reviewed the Black Adam movie. I really enjoyed Black Adam, and I'm happy to report that whatever troubles the MCU has been having as of late, perceived or real, imaginary, or otherwise, I think they're right back on track with Wakanda Forever. I am really stunned by the surprising amount of there seems to be some negativity toward this movie, and I just frankly disagree with 99% of it. This is a beautiful movie. It is a little long, but I think it's the perfect length for the subject matter it's dealing with, and this is just a really, really good movie. The cast is fantastic. I mean, the acting is absolutely superb. Angela Bassett, is amazing as Queen Ramonda, who basically within the first 5-10 minutes of this movie, you know that T'Challa is dead. He dies of an unknown disease, and that's not really much of a spoiler. Surprise, surprise, everybody knew for the last few years that they're not going to recast T'Challa. They're not going to recast Chadwick Boseman. They're going to kill off the character of T'Challa, which frankly, look, I'm not a Marvel zombie, but Black Panther is the leader of Wakanda. So the next leader of Wakanda is probably going to be a Black Panther, or a Black Panther is a protector of Wakanda. So does it really matter? It's not a hill that I have to die on. I don't care one way or the other. In any event, I will say this: I was pleasantly surprised. In addition to getting the nice little the popcorn and the pop here, which I always like paying a little bit more for, is you got some jewelry. So if you take your daughter or your son, you might fluke off some nice jewelry for them. I mean, hey, if you're gonna overpay for things at a theater, it's okay to get some trinkets once in a while. In any event, I like this movie. It was really good. The way this movie set the pieces in place at the beginning, that all of Wakanda is dealing with a great amount of loss here, and you really feel the loss. There's a massive celebration of T'Challa's life at his funeral, and following that, you have a nation of Wakanda in mourning. You also have a world, the United Nations, that's putting pressure on Wakanda to share its vibranium, to share its resources, and the world, and the countries of the world, particularly France of all people, and the United States, they engage in some covert operations to try to steal some vibranium, and that really pisses off Queen Ramonda, who makes it very clear to the United Nations that, look, it's our vibranium. We don't want to share it with you. We're not going to share it with you because, frankly, we're afraid of what you would do with it. And, of course, the actions of the United States, the actions of France, in this case, of all places, would warrant that. Now, this ties in really, really nice with the introduction of Namor, because when he shows up, he's the leader of the Talakans. I'm pronouncing that wrong, or just plain catastrophically wrong. Don't matter. It's unimportant. I don't know why they didn't call him Atlanteans, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from the movie. It's an ancient underground race. They used to be a Mayan race, but and Namor is identified as a mutant, and his people essentially moved because of influence by a different color vibranium, whereas vibranium for the Wakandans is actually green. The vibranium for Talakans is actually blue. And in the ocean, the blue Talakan, it actually, being exposed to blue vibranium, the ancient Mayans became underwater, an underwater nation, and for thousands of years they've kept their identity secret. And now what's drawing Namor out as a mutant leader of the Talakans is the fact that he wants to keep man's world. He wants to keep humanity from finding vibranium, and he wants to keep, frankly, Talakans secret from the rest of the world. He doesn't want the rest of the world to know about them. And so Namor basically reveals himself to Queen Ramonda and says, "Look, we want your help. We don't want you to expose. We don't want you to expose us, and we don't want you to give vibranium to the rest of the world." And they're kind of on the same page in that regard, except Namor is he's very aggressive, and he's not afraid to lose lethal force. And anyways, as the movie progresses, you've got a number of very good character moments here. You got Namor looking for the out for the best of his people. You got Queen Ramonda. You got Queen Ramonda dealing with the loss of T'Challa and dealing with a struggling daughter, Shuri, who's struggling with the loss of her brother. And it's the character moments in here that work so well. And as the movie progresses, I always say her name wrong. Thank God it's on the popcorn. What's her name now? Her name, oh, yes, Okai. Yeah. Okai goes with Shuri to the United States to find out how is the U.S. being able to locate vibranium, and it ends up, that's how they end up meeting Riri Williams, because Riri Williams is very intelligent, but she doesn't realize that, Riri Williams doesn't realize that her own research, because she's a young genius 17-year-old kid who is, the U.S. is, unbeknownst to her, using her research to locate vibranium in the deep recesses of the ocean. And so they basically, essentially, they kind of quasi-kidnap Riri Williams to take her back to Wakanda. Meanwhile, of course, the problem is the problem is that Namor wants to kill the scientist. They want to kill the scientist, and the scientist being Riri Williams. And so ultimately they end up kidnapping Shuri and Riri Williams and taking them to Talokan into their undersea world. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful world. There's really good special effects here. The movie does suffer a little bit. There's some lighting issues that probably could have been improved upon a little bit. This is not as, I didn't find the underworld as quite as impressive or as incredible to visually see, as to visually experience as Aquaman. I thought the Aquaman movie did a better job with the undersea world, with the undersea life, the undersea city, but it's still very impressive. And quite frankly, the central pull of this movie for me is the character work. It's just so well done, because once Shuri gets kidnapped and by Namor is trying to negotiate with Shuri, saying, look, we have common interests here. Mankind, I don't like mankind. Namor tells his origin to Shuri, and look, says, mankind's the enemy. Humanity is the enemy. Meanwhile, of course, we get Queen Ramonda confronts the wife of T'Challa, Nakia, and Nakia is just absolutely fantastic actress. I mean, she's such a kick-ass action star here. I just really love it. I love the way it all comes together. But at the same time here, I want to be very clear. This is not there's a lot of action in this movie, but by far there's more character moments. And that's why, oddly enough, I find that a lot of people seem to not like this movie, or they don't enjoy this movie enough. They feel it's too long. Your enjoyment of this movie is going to depend upon the degree to which you are prepared to sit back and let the characters take you on their character arcs. Because every one of the characters here, M'Baku is on a character arc. Nakia has a character arc. Shuri in particular has a character arc. Queen Ramonda has a character arc. And of course, Shuri has her hero's journey, because Shuri has doubts. Shuri's all about, she's the scientist. Shuri is the one who, M'Baku tells her, go on your spiritual quest. Do what your brother did. Do what T'Challa did. Become one with, connect with your ancestors to gain some insight. But she refuses to do that because she's a scientist. She doesn't really believe in the mumbo-jumbo spiritual aspect of the world, or the meditative aspects of that. She's reluctant to go through the ceremony that would allow her to connect with her ancestors. And her journey to finally decide to ultimately do that strikes at the basis and the core of where this movie basically takes you, because as the tensions between Wakanda and Talokan grow, the war, once Shuri and Riri Williams are rescued by Queen Ramonda, and that leads to a very, very that leads to the death of a major character, which puts Shuri at her absolutely lowest point. And as a consequence of that, there's a huge battle between the Talokans and the Wakandans. And it is, I got to tell you, I thought it was very creative. Takes place on a battleship. The Wakandans essentially their goal is essentially to kidnap Namor. And it's unclear throughout the movie whether Shiri is going to embrace Killmonger's approach of using lethal force, or will she or will she utilize her brother's approach of wisdom and preserving life for the betterment of her people. Despite the fact that Namor has done some terrible things, Shiri has to wrestle with the fact that if they attack and they kill Namor, that his people will never get over it, and there'll be an ongoing, constant generational war between the Wakandans and the Talakans, and that's exactly what they want to avoid. But Shiri is filled with rage and anger, and it's so beautifully acted. The acting here is absolutely superb. There is one particular scene, what will probably win Angela Bassett the Oscar, or at least get nominated for it, where she's literally at the beginning. There's a scene there in the throne room where at one point in the movie, Okai fails to protect Shiri, and Shiri ends up getting kidnapped. And Queen Ramonda is so angry, and she's so angry and still dealing with the grief of the loss of T'Challa, and so angry at Okai for failing to protect Shiri, that she fires Shiri, fires her, strips her of her role as her top royal guard. And it's such a powerful moment, and it works so well. And it's just, it's scenes like that. And that was probably one of the best scenes in the movie. But it's scenes like that you feel the hurt and the pain of these characters and what they're going through at the loss of T'Challa, but also what they need to go do. And you can understand what they emotionally need to overcome as a nation in order to confront Talakan. And ultimately when they ultimately confront Namor, it is a battle that ends exactly how it ought to. And there is ultimately the truce that results between Talakan and Wakanda is because of the actions of Shiri in not taking the life of Namor at the end. Very, very powerful moments as they fight each other. And now there's a couple of scenes here. There's a scene in particular where Shiri actually gets like literally impaled right through her entire body, and she recovers relatively quickly. There's obviously a comic book explanation that her suit could heal her, but there might be you might need to stretch the verisimilitude a little bit. There's a powerful scene where Shiri blows up her ship to dry out and to ultimately defeat Namor. But she refuses to kill him. She could kill him, but she refuses to kill him because she has a vision. She has a vision of her mother, and that provides further insight to her. And her and Namor, they come to a truce because they realize, and this is what I love about how this is going to build for tension for the future of the MCU, because Wakanda and Talakan now, they have something in common. Even though they're very different, they share a need for vibranium. And they share a history with vibranium, and what they might have a lot in common. What they have in common in particular is their need to keep humanity away from gaining the power of vibranium. So they have that interest. And so they kind of reach a truce where they say, okay, we're now going to protect each other from humanity, from the rest of the world. That's very interesting. And you can imagine how that can create some tensions moving forward in the MCU. In this respect, I think that this movie really, really worked. And it was very, very believable to see that the United States and France and members of the United Nations would take offense to Wakanda having this. I mean, they're the most powerful nation on the earth. They're one of the smallest nations in the world, Wakanda, and they're one of the most powerful. And throughout the movie, the rest of the world does not know of the existence of Namor. And a lot of the actions that Namor's taking are being blamed on Wakanda. And at the end of the movie, the world maybe knows about Namor, but mostly doesn't. And so Wakanda's going to take the bullet for Namor and still has a truce with him in a twisted kind of way. And I really love that. It shows the political and the international tensions involved that are still in place at the end of this movie that will remain there moving forward. I think it worked extremely well. They did a very, very good job here. And and there was loss. There was loss of life. There was consequences here. Shiri's heroic journey is exemplified and made manifest precisely because that she chose the hero's path. She chose the most difficult path and the hero's path, despite having not only suffered the loss of T'Challa, but other losses, as you'll see in this movie, not to mention a whole slew of Wakandans get slaughtered. I mean, there's a lot of death in this movie on both sides, and this is very, very well done. And I got to tell you, there was at least 3 times that I shed a couple tears in this movie. And in particular, the most powerful one for me was the end. Absolutely beautiful. I want to give a shout out to Rihanna. Not only is Rihanna beautiful, but the only thing that's more beautiful than Rihanna is her voice. She sings a song called Lift Me Up in the final scene, which has Shiri staring out into the ocean, thinking about T'Challa. And there's nothing but, she has solitude. It's completely silent as she listens to the ocean. And then Rihanna's song kicks in, and it's absolutely beautiful. And it's impossible not to feel the emotion at that moment, given how the movie gets you to that final scene. It's absolutely beautiful. And then there's a mid-credit scene where you will further not only shed a tear, but get a great big grin on your face, because the future of Black Panther's in very good hands. And let's just say the legacy of T'Challa, it's not over, guys. It's not over, ladies and gentlemen. This was a very, very well done movie. I think that it deserves recognition for what it does. In my view, it puts the MCU back on the map, because this is a film. This is storytelling at its finest. This is well scripted. This is well acted. There are some nitpicks on the special effects. I got to tell you, it's not the greatest special effects I've ever seen, but I nonetheless love some of the innovations that they had throughout this movie. I love some of the special effects. There's a water bomb that Namor uses that Falcons use, where they're just round bundles of basically water balls. It's almost like, it's like really cool. Calling them water balloons would do them an injustice, but they're really cool and extremely powerful enough to even take out a battleship. I got to tell you, this movie is just, it's emotionally impactful. It's emotionally impactful. And look, it's long, okay? No word of a lie. I drank pop. I had all the popcorn. I drank all my pop. I definitely had to go to the bathroom at the end of this movie. Like, that's the first place I went, was to the bathroom, because I didn't want to leave it. And that's always frustrating. When a movie's over 2.5 hours long, that's always an issue that you're going to have. It was my fault. I think actually I went on Thursday afternoon. If I recall, I think I snuck in a beer with a buddy before I went and watched it. So that's my own damn fault. This is going to be a long movie, guys. Prepare for it so you don't have to have your bladder bother you as you're watching it, because you're going to enjoy this movie. And I should say that one of the reasons why that I stopped thinking about my bladder even when I had to go to the bathroom is because of how this movie pulls you in. This is a very, very good movie. I love this movie. Now, I've listened to some reviews. Some people that don't like this movie. To each their own. If I can tell you this, I'm a comic collector. I'm a DC guy. I'm not a Marvel guy. If you're someone that you absolutely love T'Challa and you can't get over the fact that T'Challa is not being recast in this movie, okay, then I guess you're not going to like the movie. But that's not a criticism. That's a criticism in saying, well, they should have made a different movie. But if you're going to review this movie, review this movie. In this movie, T'Challa dies right at the end. So then, if you're going to review it, review the actual story that is being told, because the story that is told here is absolutely excellent. It's visceral, it's impactful, it's emotional. If you don't, I can't imagine people not enjoying this movie. Even if you, anyways, I'm just stunned. I'm stunned. Now, having said that, will this movie make $1 billion? I don't know. It's a very long movie. So is it going to get a repeat? Like, I love this movie. I would like to see it again. But the fact that it's 3 hours long is a little bit to me. It's like, well, it is 3 hours long. I have to plan my day. I may not go see it again right away because maybe I'll just wait till it's on streaming because it's a long movie. So the fact that it's such a long movie might detract from some people going back to see it a second time, because the only way it's going to hit $1 billion is if people go to see this a second time. There has to be a large contingent of core Marvel zombie fans that want to go see this movie a second time. I don't know if that's the case, but I can tell you, as somebody who is a DC fan first, Marvel fan second, I love this movie, and I'm an MCU fan. I think this is really good. I encourage people to go see this. It's well worth it. And yeah, guys, seriously, don't listen to some of the naysayers here. Go and judge it for yourself. At a minimum, God, I think you'd have to be you'd have to have a really tough emotional exterior not to at least maybe get a little bit teary-eyed in parts of this movie, because it's so well done and so well acted that I think it's definitely worth checking out. So, guys, that's my review. One final comment before I go. There's some talk here that young boys aren't going to like this movie because there's so many female characters. I say hogwash. M'Baku is awesome in this movie, and M'Baku ultimately becomes leader of the Wakanda nation at the end. Surprise, surprise, which is pretty cool. There's men that fight in this movie. It's awesome. You got Namor. You got Atuma, who's really good at fighting as well. He fights Okai. I mean, there's all kinds of cool moments here that I haven't even touched upon. This is this is almost a 3 hour movie. It has a lot of moments. So there's lots of. I mean, anybody that thinks. I don't know. Like you don't need to have just the majority of men in a movie for a young boy to not enjoy an action movie. This is an awesome action-packed movie. Trust me, your kids will love it, and your kids will love it whether they're a young boy or a young girl. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise, because they're absolutely full of it. So guys, go check out this movie. Enjoy it, and until next time, Comic Boo out.